And APB, American Protection Bureau, voted #1 best on Long Island for all your security needs. Call 631-390-9050. That's 631-390-9050. APB.
Do you treat your dog as part of the family? Well, so do we. So why not celebrate your pup's birthday with the ultimate party box? Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Party Pup Info, and let us make your pup's party or any celebration perfection.
Saying you talk about God like he's yours and not mine, but you are sadly mistaken. Liars and siders, place line of hand, lying and cheating and taking. Political puppets steal all they can, but they are sadly mistaken.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the episode 2 of the O Spot with your host, Ona Zee Dawes. Continuing off where we left from the conversation last time. We were talking about the adult film industry and the provisions implemented in her era in the 80s of safe precaution, how to go around doing scenes.
80s, 90s.
80s, 90s, early 2000s. She actually probably, this is another trivial for the audience out there. She probably has one of the longest careers of any adult performer in the adult film industry, because she literally started in 1985, was it?
86.
86, and then I think your last film was 2005.
You might know that better than I do.
Yeah, so about 30-year career.
Right.
But you kept revolutionizing the industry, and you kept becoming fresh and always having something to offer to the business when a lot of people grew stale over time.
They quit.
So what was your secret behind that?
I think I'm always looking for something new. I am self-educating, and I'm always looking for another answer, or I just want the facts. I want more information and more information. I take classes online. I sit in. I read a lot. I'm carnivorous when it comes to reading. And, you know, I do have so many fans and so many people that keep me updated. And I think that's why. And that is why, as I mentioned in the first spot, Tim and I were talking about, we're writing a book, and that's why I'm writing a book about the industry, yes, but more importantly, how to get out of the industry without hurting yourself. And it's become more and more prevalent that stars are hurting themselves and not getting out and having a full life. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is they're committing suicide. So I'm just a very curious person, and I want to know all that I can know about that and other things. And why would you stay in? Like, there are some older women who are still working in their 60s, and I don't know why, or why people want them to, or any of that. I mean, I don't want to put myself in front of the camera and be working at my age. So I want to know more.
Mm-hmm. So when you were navigating through the business, one of the things we touched upon in the first episode, where you got to a point where you started your own production company and you branded yourself.
Yes.
So the intelligent thing about that is, and what's most interesting to me about that is, You were the first, as far as I know, first female, or actually not just female, but any performer in the adult industry to actually create your own brand.
Yes, I was and am. I'm the only woman ever to own and operate a worldwide distribution company to this day, and with a library of 300 films. And I think it was really important for me to succeed. I come from a family of very aggressive business people. And this was really important for me, even though it was adult and not being a doctor or a lawyer or something, to succeed in my field and be the first and the best that I could be. I'm not saying that I am, or that someone like Stevie Hirsch at Vivid wasn't or isn't the best or whatever. I'm saying that it was important for me to be the best I could be. And, you know, that's where it was at. And I did have my own moniker. I wanted to be Ona Zee Pictures, Ona Zee Productions, and have people know me for that. And they do. And people, and I could walk down the street and people are shouting, Ona Zee, I love you. And, you know, this is 35 years later, and it's great. It's fun. And I could be with my husband and he's like, she's right here. So I definitely made the impact I wanted to make.
So when you were doing films back with other producers in the beginning stage of the adult film industry, what were some of your experiences like? Did you have gross back-end deals? You were supposed to make a gross percentage off of certain films and then you weren't paid on the back end, or?
No one gets paid on the back end.
Okay.
Now in regular films, yes, I've done several of those and we get paid a percentage. You get your salary. You don't always get what you ask for, but you do get a salary. And you can, depending on, you know, whether you're starring in it or co-starring, whatever, get something on the back end. It has been my entire experience in 35 years that no one gets paid a commission or a gross amount of money. You get whatever you're paid for that scene, for that day, and that is it. And that is one of my biggest problems with the industry, is that, you know, health insurance, you know, HIV protection, just the money you get for that scene, when that scene is going to be reproduced hundreds of times within that company that you're working for in hundreds of other films. And that's not fair. You should get a percentage every time that scene is reproduced in another movie. And that has never happened, and I don't believe it ever will, because that's not the way it's been set up from the beginning of time, and it's not fair. It's just not fair. I mean, you're working your, pardon the expression, your ass off, and you're sweating and you're doing this and you're doing that, and you're giving it your all, and you're only making like $1,000 a scene, or maybe not even that, or, you know, 3,000 or whatever it is, but it's not enough, because you'll see that scene over and over and over again in every language, in every country. Well, what's fair about that? Nothing.
So is that part of the, as I say, refer to it as the culmination, where you said I had enough is enough. I'm tired of making other producers money with my own blood, sweat, and tears. It's time for me to start my own production company.
Absolutely. And I knew it. I mean, I'm pretty sharp. I didn't go to college, but I'm business savvy. And I knew it from the beginning that the whole idea of me getting in was to have my own company. And so I worked as hard as I could. I made as much money as I could. I squirreled it away. And then I finally opened my own company. And in the first program we did, you asked me how many years it took. And I want to say it took at least I wish, honestly,
Mhm.
I'm old, I can't remember. I wish I could say I knew, maybe 3-4 years, but once I started, I never looked back, and I worked and I worked. And dancing
Mhm.
around the country for clubs, I took all that money and that tip money and I saved it as
Right.
much as I could to make films, as many as I could, and to pay my employees. And I got up to having my own duplication room and, making 5-6 movies a week. And that's tough. That's really hard. I know Vivid and other companies, they're probably putting out 20, 30, I don't know how many movies a week, but that is the correct combo to really making a lot of money.
So in the 1980s, I remember they had a movement. I believe this was to start a union in adult films. It's called the Pink Ladies Society, I believe. What was that about? Can you tell us, like, what was that?
Well, there
background on
were
that?
women, I don't know too much about it. It was just before my time, I think, and they wanted to start a union, which meant that they would get paid in perpetuity for whatever movie they were making or whatever scene it was. And of course, they got blown away. I mean, there was no way that was going to happen because, the producers are like, doctors think they're gods, and people revere them as such. So that's the way producers think. I mean, they don't think very much of us because we're, making sex scenes. And so trying to start a union is ridiculous in their minds. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, there's no way, and we're never going to pay you more than what we're paying you for this scene. And no, it didn't happen. It's never going to happen.
Wow. So when you started branding your company, you created, I believe it was called Ona Zee Productions.
Or
What-
Ona Zee Pictures, either one.
What was the response to that? Like, you were the first in the industry to do that. What was the response to that?
Well, it was interesting. It was good and it was scary because the way the men producers responded was like the duplication company I was working with, huge company. When I went to him and I said, look, I'm going to need, some seed money or a little bit more time or whatever. He said, okay. But when I went and I duplicated my films, he held them back instead of distributing them.
Wow.
And that killed me because it held up the line of production. And I said they would be out, let's say, January 1st. They didn't come out until January 10th. And so all those people that were waiting for them thought I was a dummy. And I called this guy and I said, it was our mistake. It's bullshit.
Wow.
It wasn't a mistake. It was on purpose. And the same with the guy that made the box covers. And this went on. And I paid my bills. I did what I was supposed to do. And when they got I wasn't going away, it stopped. And it took a while. It took a long time for them to get it.
So they were purposely trying to sabotage.
Oh,
you.
yeah. Anything they could do to kick me out. And I finally said, each one of them, I am not going anywhere. You can't do this to me. Oh, we can do it. And when I was getting out of the business, I was having a hard time financially and I was getting a divorce. And of course, he helped himself to every bit of money we had. And I went to, the printers and all those guys. And I said, look, I need a little bit of time. So what did they do? They got together and they pushed and wanted their money now. And it forced me almost into bankruptcy.
Wow.
And I said, I've been paying you guys for 20 years. What's the problem? They had a huge problem with it. It was their opportunity to get rid of me.
So that was is it pretty safe to say that was a male-dominated industry and there wasn't really a voice for females? And really, even to this day, would you say that's still the case for the most part?
Yes, and there are some women who tried to run a company, but they're backed by a man, and I was not. And I think they saw this as the perfect opportunity. I mean, to my face, they said, "Wow, you're great. We love you. Thank God." You know what? But when it came right down to it, no. You know, I got to do everything I could for them. They did nothing for me.
So there was actually a point where you started outgrossing as far as sales with your product, your production company, everything to do with your brand. You started outgrossing all the males, everybody in the industry.
I honestly, Tim, I can't say that because they were producing. I mean, yes, some companies. And I was doing very well. I had a different view on the movies that I was making, but they were making more money. They had been in the business longer. They had more affiliation with the distributors, you know, and the people. And where I did very well was in Europe. And I was flying around Europe and representing my product. And I got to go to Australia and Africa, and you know, they loved me there, and I made a pretty penny there, and I was gone all the time. So that for me is what I had to do to make some serious money.
Is it pretty safe to say that the male producers had more of an output reach with distribution, like you said? And in some cases, did you find like these producers, well, you kind of already said this, but in a roundabout way, the producers would purposely sabotage your relationship with those distributors?
Yeah.
Okay. So it'll make it hard for you to do international pre-sales to other territories and other countries?
Actually, not in that sense. In America, they made it really tough. I mean, I did film noir, and then they did something similar, and it got in my way. And I made the best bondage series of all time, Learning the Ropes. And then, I don't know if you know the company Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve picked up on that. And at first they bought it for top dollar. And then, and I had said to them, why don't you let me make some movies for you?
Right.
No. So finally they made their own version of Learning the Ropes, and it was terrible, but they had the wherewithal to send it out everywhere. They had tons of money, and so they directly competed with me, and that was hard to take because I had always supported them, gone to shows for them, you know, given them great price breaks, and there they were trying to, you know, put the dirt over my head. So that was very rough.
So this industry of adult films, a lot of people would not know probably, but the real world and the reality of it is this industry is viewed by everybody in the world. Doctors, lawyers, police officers,
my God. Yes.
Dentists. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like Catholic priests.
Yes.
At some point in time in your life, you've seen an adult movie.
Yes.
That's the bottom line of everything. So even though it's kind of taboo to some people behind closed doors, it's like completely open, and it's another world. It's another lifestyle.
I don't know anybody who hasn't seen one.
Right. So what do you think as a performer, producer, this entertainer in that industry for such a long period of time, would you say was the, let's say the sensual factor, why people get off on watching adult films? What would you say that the reason is behind that?
I think one of the reasons is because they're afraid to do what I'm doing. And it gives them liberty to say, oh, wow, well, she's doing it, I guess I can't. I mean, that was my purpose, was to let people know that it was okay. There's no shame in having sex.
Right.
Front, back, up, down, you know, upside down, whatever your choice is. And even in bondage, there's no shame if that's your gig. And I have a lot of private clients who wanted bondage, just one-on-one, me and them. And I think a lot of people wanted to do it with their partner. Like, women are very shy. and sometimes men are too, but for the most part, women. And I think if they watch someone else, they might feel better, like, oh, well, she's doing it, I guess I can do it, I guess it's okay.
Right.
And I think I think that's a reason. That's a really good reason. But I know that a lot of what I made was instrumental in helping people get over what fear or phobia they might have about having sex.
So, like, what would you say to young girls today that are trying to break into the industry, like the adult film industry? That's their purpose in life, is to become part of the adult industry.
The first thing I say to them is, look, think about this. Think about your grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, I can think about her. And you're 18, 19, 20 years old. So what would your grandmother say, you know, if she saw that? Oh, no, I can't even imagine it. Okay, so now, instead of grandma, let's think about the fact that, you know, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, you're married and you have a baby. Right. And now a few years in, baby's watching a movie and it's you having sex, but not with daddy. Oh, no, I couldn't do it. And there's baby and grandma who's babysitting. And the two of you are like, you know, what would you say to baby? Oh, I never thought about that. That could be really bad. As she snorts a little more coke. And I would say, why don't you go home and think about that? Because that is exactly what's going to happen. And everybody in your life is going to know, and they're going to tell somebody else until grandma knows. And when you decide to leave or don't leave or whatever, and you have children, one day they will know. So if that's okay with you, then come back to me and we'll make a contract that says it's okay with me. I get it. I'm over 18. And I want to make films. Right. If it's not okay with you, then I don't expect to see you in anybody else's studio. But so, that's the very first thing.
So that's what you tell any actress before they get involved,
man or woman.
So give like an in-depth look at, okay, so you are just now, this is your first film, you're stepping foot on the set for the first time. What was that experience like? Did you know what was expected of you before you went into the set?
It was scary, Tim. Okay. It was so scary. I was 33 or whatever I was, and it was still scary. There were all these people all over the place running around. Keisha had roller skates on. And she was like, so I'm listening to this. And the crew was like, come on, let's get it together. Oh no, get over here. And Tom Byron was very young. And he was standing near a fireplace. And he said to me, so what's your story? And I wanted to like fucking smack him across the face. And, you know, he's like a baby for me.
Right.
He's in his 20s.
Right.
And I said, well, I haven't done this before. Oh, come on. I said, well, I've had sex, but not in front of a camera. And he said, well, don't worry about it. We'll have a really good time, which we did. He's very, very good at what he does. And first of all, I was staying in I like to live alone. So I'm staying in a house with all these other actors. And I don't like that. So I'm a little wound up. And I'm not sure what to think. I'm not sure what to say or do or whatever. So I have lines to speak. So I'm relying on my acting ability to push me through.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, let's do some acting. So we do. And my heart's like
pounding in your chest. Yeah.
So eventually we get to the sex part. And you know what? I thought about this for years. I just kind of switch off. And I go into this Ona Zee person. I'm no longer Ona, I'm Ona Zee now. And it has, held me stalwart throughout my entire career. And one of the issues I had when I wanted to transition out was that I couldn't turn it off.
Okay.
I could not turn it off. And I had to figure out, how am I going to do that now? Because I think I mentioned to you when we were having lunch that it's more than just the sex. It's the money you make. You buy your own jewelry, you buy makeup, you buy clothes, you buy a house, you buy this and that. And so you don't want to turn it off. You want to, I mean, I'm very orgasmic. So for me, it was really fun. But it's hard. Once you turn it on, it's hard to turn it off. And the longer you do it, the more you become that actor and not your person.
Got you. So was that process to transition out of yourself into Ona Zee, was that a difficult transitional process?
It wasn't difficult. It was hard to come back.
Okay.
And that is what my husband at the time saw. He said, it's really hard for you to come back now. I think you need to go to therapy. And I did. And it did help me to come back. And I had been, you know, because I had been incested, as I said, I felt so good about myself that I could get money for sex instead of having somebody pawing at me and, you know, when I was a teenager, having sex with me for nothing. And that was a horrible experience. So I felt like redemption.
Right. So when you say you had a hard time turning it off, you were basically Ona Zee on the set and off set.
I was. And
Okay.
and it didn't really, it didn't hurt me. It didn't help me. It didn't really do anything. But I became hard. People were trying to, you know, screw me over. They didn't, you know, when you're in the business, it is like any other business. People don't want to pay you. But in the adult film industry, they really don't want to pay you. So one company in particular back east, they would run their bill for a year and it could be $100,000.
Okay.
And then when they got ready to pay you, they'd say, okay, I'll take 20%. And I'll pay you. And I'm like, no way.
Wow.
You know, I've been paying my phone bill, my people, whatever, and now you're going to take frickin' 20% off and pay me? No. And that's when I met my husband because he was coming to interview for a CFO position. And I was screaming. And he had a friend who brought him in and he turned around and he said to him, I don't know if this is for me. And he said, no, you have to understand. It's impossible to get paid.
Wow.
Nobody wants to pay her or anybody else. And it took very heavy measures to get paid.
So what would you have to do to go through the process of being paid?
Well, I eventually had to hire some people. And, you know, in one instance, I had a huge fish head. I cut it off and put it in this guy's lawn.
Okay.
With a note. This is just a warning. And then when, you know, he told everybody what I did. And then, you know, he said, who do you think you are? And I said, I don't think I'm anybody. I want to get paid. You owe me $75,000. So when he didn't pay me, those same guys went into his office and threw his television through the glass window. I said, I think I might get paid now. He said, okay, I'm going to pay you. One guy I took to court. And the judge said, all right, law and order, we get it. I said, no, you don't get it because you get paid every month, but I don't.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was very difficult. And then this other guy from the East owed me over $100,000. And I don't remember what he paid me, but I know he finally did. But once my husband took over as CFO, it got easier. Then I didn't have to do it. But still, you know, they don't want to pay you. They want the product, but they don't want to pay you.
And they feel they can get away without paying you. And there's no repercussions or consequences for their actions of not paying you.
Right.
Wow. So that had to have been a very, at times, a really cutthroat business.
Oh, beginning to end. And a lot of times, you know, I remember I was with one of my girlfriends and we were doing a movie and we were, you know, like in the mountains or something. And in walks the producer with a couple of guys who probably have invested in the movie. They'll never see their money either. And the producer calls over me and my girlfriend and says, do these guys.
Wow.
I looked at him and I said, I'm not a prostitute. I'm an entertainer. He said, I don't give a shit what you are. You'll do it because I said so. I said, no, it won't. And my girlfriend said, I'm not doing this. And we walked away. But that is constant.
And that was from a producer asking you to do that. So the producer, in some of the producers' minds, you are their property while on set and while off set. Wow, that's just crazy.
So I said to him, look, I'm already having sex for a living.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an entertainer. I'm a sex performer. I'm not your prostitute.
Mm-hmm.
And he grabs my other arm and he says, you'll do what I want you to do. And I said, you go fuck yourself. I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do it? You do it.
Mm-hmm. So
a lot of other producers do that.
Did a lot of the male, and this might be a sensitive topic, but did a lot of the male producers try to use intimidation factor tactics to try to get you to do what they wanted you to do?
Of course.
Yeah. So a lot of that went on? Okay.
Not just with me, but the other girls too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was already at some point like 36, 37, whatever, and I'd made several films. And so we had the proverbial casting couch, which was so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
You're already naked.
Mm-hmm.
So I had on a dress or something, and they called me in and said, get dressed, get undressed. I said, no. Well, do you want the part? I said, not that bad. I'm already getting undressed for you when I'm having sex.
Mm-hmm.
And this one guy said, get undressed so you won't work anymore. I said, for who? For you?
Mm-hmm.
So one of my friends came in and she had to do the same thing. And she said, oh, who cares? Just take your clothes off. So I did. And I said, he says, now come sit on my lap.
Mm.
I got dressed and I walked out. I still made the movie,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people got killed.
Wow.
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that intimidation is so rampant and horrible. And I said I'd never be that, and I never was. And that was a big reason why I wanted to have my own company.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to show people that you don't have to be that way to make a movie. It's not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know, unless you have some body defect that I need to know about, and I've never met you before,
Right.
It's not, I'm going to see you on camera in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell me, do you have like a mark on your penis or your birthmark or something? If you do, just tell me.
Right.
I do. Okay, can I see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I saw it. Great, thanks. Now I know what to expect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But why do I need to get undressed?
Right. So you were always married when you were in the industry, correct?
I was married,
Okay.
and then I divorced,
Okay.
and then I married my current husband.
Okay. So for other women that you know about, or maybe you were around, experienced, was it hard for them to maintain personal relationships outside of the business?
Yes, because the men wanted the money, and
Mhm.
they would abuse the women they were with. And, they would come on my set
Mm-hmm.
and demand that I paid them. And the girl is like, yeah, you better pay him. I'm like, I'm paying you. You want to pay him? You hand him the money.
So a lot of the performers' boyfriends kind of came on and said acting, unquote, unquote, kind of like a pimp.
Oh, they were pimps. And
Okay.
most of the men with the women were pimps, and they forced them into the business, took them off the street
Mhm.
and put them in.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. Because a lot of women that were in the industry probably would not have been in the industry if that had not happened to them. Okay.
And they were not necessarily pretty. They didn't have an education of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
They were drugged up,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't know what they were doing. And I didn't hire those women, but it was very, very sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I would ask them to vacate the scene, and a lot of guys got very angry. And I just, I had some bodyguards around me. I had to. So that made me hard. And I'm a
Right.
very nice person,
Mm-hmm.
and did not want to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of people thought, wow, she's crazy. She's not nice. She's not. I'm like, what do you know?
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you ran a business?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was tough.
So at that time, you were pretty much, from what I know, were you the only female producer in the business?
Yeah, there were a few others,
Okay.
but not doing what I was doing.
Right. Not branding their own line of toys and films and
No.
everything you were doing. Right. So again, that would have been difficult to navigate through a male-dominated industry.
Oh my God. It just, and not only male dominated, I mean, just these guys who are just like slugs, stupid and brutal, and think that they own you.
Was there anybody in the industry though that became a kind of a confidant, supporter of you to try to help you navigate through the business the way you wanted?
A couple really sweet guys.
Okay.
Like the owner of Doc Johnson. It's been so good to me. Just wonderful.
So he kind of helped you brand your line.
He helped me in so many ways with, ways to be and how to think and, how to show up and what to say and not to say. And just has been an amazing friend for years. Not everybody's like that.
No, yeah. And that's in any industry you're at, because I'm primarily work in the mainstream business, and there's a lot of cutthroatness that goes on in the mainstream entertainment industry as well. You just have to stand firmly with what you believe in and stand up for what is right and what is wrong, and be a leader, not a follower. So the fact that you were mature when you entered into the business, it was easier for you to handle the pros and the cons of the business than a lot of women, because they weren't educated and they weren't as mature as you.
It was, but like I said, I got tough. And so when I met my current husband, I had to find a way to back it down. And it took a while. And, because I'm normally very sensitive, very soft, and it took a while to back down.
So like the first time that you did a film on your own as the producer through your production company, what was that experience? Were you finally able to see the back end of a film that you were in and actually see a profit? Now you were making money off of your name and your brand, and you weren't allowing other producers to take advantage of you.
It was great. And I paid the women fairly. And listen, if someone out there was having a problem, they'd come to me, I'd give them money. If something was wrong, I'd take care of it. I mean, I'm a nice person. I made sure that everybody was okay.
So what was some of the best experiences, in your opinion, you had in the business? If you had take it back to the beginning to now, would there be anything that you would change about the industry?
Oh my God, I think, Tim, there's a lot of things I would change about the casting process and how humiliating that was, and the way they allowed drugs on sets, and just, I mean, I'd have to think about it for our next conversation and write it down. I mean, it's immense.
So what, we'll talk about that in the next episode. I want to ask you in the next episode how you feel you were able to have such a longevity in the business and how you were able to preserve, what I call a legacy, because it's still, you're a legend in the business, but you also carry the name. So like people my age and even younger know who you are.
Right.
So that's got to be an accomplishment to be remembered. We'll talk about that in the next episode, because we're running out of time for episode 2, but stay tuned for episode 3, which is coming up in around a few minutes.